You're listening to The Dating Den with dating and relationship badass and best-selling author Marni Battista. Every week, you'll get the raw truth from top experts and real people on the important dating, sex, and relationship issues you want to know about. So if you're ready for true talk that's authentic and unfiltered, and you're not afraid to be called out on your stuff, then you're ready for what's next.
The Dating Den with Chris Gillis. What to do when he starts to pull away. Ladies, welcome into the Dating Den. My dad used to call me Drooly Lynn. My middle name is Lynn because I used to drool a lot when I was a kid. And
you did?
I did. And I just got like a filling done up. And so I feel like I'm drooling, but luckily I may or may not be, and you'll never know.
Well, if we hear a big slurp, we'll
yeah, exactly. I did realize I can't sip from a straw. So, yes, I'm coming to you live. Drooly Possible Lynn Battista here with Chris Gillis. We have so much to talk about today here in the Dating Den because there was 3 hours of real life case studies last night on Bachelor in Paradise. So a couple of things we're going to be talking about. What do you do when something feels off? Like someone's like, you feel like he's pulling away. Like, what do we do when that happens? How do you stay positive when you're, keep getting rejected? Like your dates are going nowhere. We'll talk about rejection. We're going to talk about dating long distance and making plans for the future. And is having a plan or the fact that we're going to make a plan to work it out, is that a plan? And then what do you do when you have big feelings for someone and the other person just doesn't share them back with you? Those are just some of the topics we'll be talking about today on the show. I want to talk first about how do you react when something feels off? Because I hear this all the time.
Yeah.
It's like, I feel like he's pulling away. Something feels different. We had this really great date, and then just something was weird after, like communication. They're not as touchy-feely. Like what? And we had a couple who's had some ups and downs on this show, and there's this whole like something feels off. And what's interesting is in this case is that both of them articulate not to each other that something feels off, but like the last person they tell is their partner. So what do you think about that? That whole, like, when you feel like someone's pulling away, what do you do?
Yeah, I love that. This show is like such an awesome real life Sims experiment for the Gen Xers out there. Sims is a video game. You could put all little archetype people out there and they represent stuff. And yeah, it's crazy. And there's so much that can get in the way. And this is what I always ask my therapist. I'm like, hey, will you help me figure out what am I bringing? What is my mind creating up versus what's really going on? And or sometimes I'll ask a friend, but that's only kind of sort of works because they
get bad advice. Yeah, they co-sign
whatever the hell I say. Especially guys like, oh, I just want to get me off the phone and stop talking about feelings and let's get back to football. But yeah, so it is a tough thing, right? To know is like, well, what's going on? How much am I imagining? And then of course we have that gnarly self-fulfilling prophecy where if you start acting, you think they're acting weird, so now you start acting weird. We end up in this gnarly downward spiral. So something very, very real. And pulling away, man, especially if you're a person that has that is a touchy, connected person like me, you know how I am, especially. Yeah, I'm very, very sensitive to that, and it can mess me up. And then it's tough to react the right way.
It is. Well, let me tell you this. I think if we look at this, I think this is a really interesting thing because in this case, these two people have basically said, "I'm falling in love with you," and I think that's what so many of our listeners are afraid of. Like the minute you go all in, you feel like someone's pulling away. And I just want to say that I think that can happen. I think that we can be really vulnerable and say how we're feeling or have spent like 4 nights in a row with somebody or, had that one date that actually went for like 15 hours and it's really amazing. And that can happen where someone is then alone and going like, oh shit, like,
Yeah.
is this really what I want? Am I really ready for this? I wasn't really prepared to have feelings. Can I do this? And so I think it's common, right? When things get closer, it causes people, especially if this is new or you're somewhat unconscious or you're not really dealing with your feelings, to want to squish them down and put them away. And that can be that someone's pulling away. And it can be that they're pulling away and they just need to be aware of it. Or it can be they're pulling away and that's really not your person. So I think the first thing to learn from this experience of Kenny and Mari, if you watch the show, is that he says, like, you know, a couple of days ago, I felt something was off. And he's not really expressing it for those 2 days. And maybe he's just aware of it. And she's saying, like, I feel like something's off because he's feeling like something's off.
Yeah.
So I think the number one thing to do is to the faster, I definitely just ruled, the faster that you, the faster that you're able to tell the person versus then your friends or your therapist or whatever it's going to be, the better. And I was just talking to a client who said one of her biggest and bravest moments that led her to her boyfriend was that she was dating a guy named Len, and they were seeing each other, and it was kind of starting to pick up the pace a little bit. And then all of a sudden something got weird, and she sent him a message, and she just said, you know, like, hey, you know, I really have enjoyed getting to know you, and I'm in a place where I'm, you know, I'm looking for this kind of relationship, and I'm kind of confused because it's really out of character for me to not hear from you. Is everything, you know, okay with you? And he wrote back and he was like, oh, thank you for writing back. I mean, I just really been thinking about it, and I really realized like we're not a good match, and I, you know, wish you the best and blah, blah, blah. And what she said was like in the past, she would have just never had that conversation. She would have made up stories. Maybe Len would have disappeared. Maybe Len would have done a slow burn away or a slow fade. Like, and because she did that, she like nipped it in the bud. She didn't make up stories. They had a really healthy closing conversation. And then she met her boyfriend that she's been with for a couple of years, like, you know, maybe 2 weeks later. So I think that when you feel like someone's pulling away, a really good thing to say is like, hey, I feel a little confused. Like your behavior has been a little inconsistent from what it's been in the past. I'm curious what's going on. Which is what ultimately, after a few days, in a different way, Kenny and Mari kind of say that. But what was frustrating was that Kenny said it in a way where he was sort of like, I'm not sure if you're into me. So that makes me feel like I'm not sure if we're right. What do you think about that? Like he made it kind of be about her.
Yeah, I was going to say, number one, or one thing to always remember, gals, is we are so, and again, not an excuse, just seems to be more of a fact. We're so bad at that and being vulnerable that it takes a bruja being hired on this witch doctor to pull, in this case, Kenny, and to get him to express himself. And yeah, it's so par for the course, man. It's so hard to. I don't know why. God damn it. I don't know why we're so bad at this, but yeah, it's so hard for guys. To say, hey, I'm feeling scared, or I'm feeling, you know, whatever. And did not even make it sound, just to come up with those words. And like, when you just said that, Marni, like, I'm always like, oh my gosh, yeah, that's so smart. And then it comes time for me to do that in real life, or even, and I'm just like, and I just clam up. And it's more, it's easier to point out that, like I said, it's a powerful stance, like, oh, well, you're doing this, and so therefore I'm doing this, versus, hey, the truth is I'm feeling sad, feeling scared. I thought we were going places. Now I'm feeling insecure, I suppose.
Right. That's what had been so nice. And
so hard.
That's kind of what we saw Riley and Marissa. Is that his girl? Yeah.
Correct.
Like they did that like in the last episode where she was like, I'm feeling scared. Like, you know, we just said we're falling for, you know, we really like each other. And now I'm feeling scared and insecure. And he's like, and I'm feeling scared and insecure. And so that was a little bit more direct conversation. And so I just really want to make sure we leave this topic. Like if you're feeling something, get to the root of what the feeling is, and just be direct, because if it's gonna end, don't you want it to end in a way that is sort of dignified and like where you feel like you expressed yourself, versus like re-traumatizing yourself by making up stories that may or may not get fulfilled, right? And so that's a really important thing, ladies, is like every time you don't make a new behavior choice, you re-traumatize yourself from the original traumas that you've been, and then you perpetuate them.
Also,
so
I think it's worth, go do that, ladies. Also, it's totally worth pointing out that, because just when I think of pulling away, I'm thinking of the other person, like I always think like relationships are kind of like you're walking side by side and you close your eyes and you take, time equals steps, and you're taking some steps and you open your eyes and see where the other person's at. And sometimes in pulling away, the other person isn't necessarily, going backwards, because things happen, life goes on. But oftentimes I feel like in relationships, especially when you're progressing it and one of you is brave to say something and really put yourself out there, it's almost like jumping across a creek, and then the other person is just stuck. And then you're like, I'm on the other side all by myself. They're not coming. And then it's easy to make up stories of, well, they're not jumping because of me, versus maybe they're afraid they can't get over the creek, or maybe they need more time, or, who knows, they need to find the right traction and shoes and rocks to jump across, whatever it is. But it's worth like remembering that, it's not always, sometimes it can be just because you're walking along and you did something awesomely brave and the other person's, not there yet, but it's still a valid feeling. I think that, realize, hey, I'm feeling alone, or they're, like you said, I guess, they're not, they left me, but sometimes we leave the other person, but in a good way.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
We're brave.
Exactly. Okay. Let's talk about rejection, because there's a couple of things that came up in this episode about rejection. One is like, on one hand, it's like, how do you keep dating when you haven't met your person? Which I think James is doing a great job of. And we talked about him in the last episode about he's a good looking guy. He's nice. He's friendly. Is he getting friend zoned? If any of you care, that cast member ended up going for the nice guy. We talked about that last week. Is she going to go for the bad boy or the nice guy? She goes for the nice guy. But she doesn't really make it clear that she's really into him, I don't think, because then another person comes in and he goes out on a date with the new person. And, it looks like they have more of a connection. And so I think that sometimes what happens is ladies are holding back because they're not sure, or he's not your type. And I want everyone to remember that sometimes if you take too long to lean in, someone else is going to keep dating you, because someone with a decent amount of self-worth is dating you and dating other people. And, you might be taking a week or two to, I'm going to like finally let the good guy know that I'm into him. I'm going to let go of this bad boy. And meanwhile, your behaviors have been like that you're not as interested. And so I just want you to know, like, the good guy is going to carry on. Like, he's not waiting for you, even though you're like amazing. And so what I love about James is that, he dates someone, it doesn't work out. And one thing that I've never heard him say is like, I suck. Yeah. Like, there must be something wrong with me. Why is this happening to me? This never works for me. This guy is staying confident. He's modeling a ton of resilience. He's being friends with, supportive of other people. He seems like he's doing it from a genuine place, not just like, trying to get picked so he can like get to the next date. So he's doing that. And then we see another version of rejection where McKenna comes in and she asks the guy out, or she flirts with the guy, and he's like, and he's and this is what I always say, quality guys will communicate even when it's bad news. And so Aaron, and this, I love this. And this is like, I really want to underscore this, because what McKenna does is she takes this conversation and she does the opposite of James. She's like, what's wrong with me? Nobody loves me. Why is it hard? And what Aaron says is like, I think you're great and you're amazing, but I'm not in a good headspace to go on a date with you right now because I'm kind of sorting through my own stuff. He doesn't say I'm dating someone else or I like someone else. He doesn't say, he doesn't just say yes and fake it. Right? He's direct. Right. And I really love that. And so ladies, if you're dating a guy and he tells you how he's feeling and it is, not what you want to hear, don't blame him. And that's what this girl McKenna does. She's like, I can't believe he did this to me. He's such a jerk. But all he did was just try and be respectful and say a nice no. And so in that rejection, unlike James, McKenna is just like, blah. So what do you think about that? Like, do you think that's quality guy move that Aaron just is honest? Should he have just gone on the date? Like, what do you think?
I do. I 100% do. But what I also think is another huge takeaway here is that McKenna in this case, and for gals when they're out dating there, she didn't have, which makes it's very on brand with her, but she didn't have that self-awareness to be clear on what she was actually asking, or what he meant by that, or because she just assumed, okay, well, earlier on, before he had to come back and let her know, she just asked him, are you seeing anybody? Are you, how's it going? And he's like, no, currently I'm not there. So she immediately saw that, okay, she didn't follow through with the question. Like most people ask, would you be willing to go on a date? Or is that something you're interested in? She just assumed that, but she set herself up. In this case, I'm sure it happens in other areas in life. And she took it personally. And so, just get clear,
I love that. That's so true. It's like, if you want a clear answer, ask a clear question.
Yeah, when it's important too, right? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Especially when it's important. Also, you said something interesting. You were talking about how a quality guy if he's a quality guy, is going to have other options, and you're not going to be the only thing existing in his universe, and he will move on. I think another badass thing about this show that it really shows, I think most of us have been guilty of, is when we have the opportunity to do something and we don't, for whatever reason, we don't ask them out, or we don't get around to it, or we push them off, or whatever it is. It's so common, I think, for us to only, to really react when that scarcity shows up, that law. And then when something becomes scarce, then all of a sudden we're like, I can't believe he's gone, blah, blah, blah. Wait, what? You had his number, babe, for 6 months. And you never do. And we see that over and over and over again, where these people are like, and it's just like, holy shit, how often do we do that in life? And it just goes to prove, and I think a really encouraging way, how, hey man, maybe we are compatible with a lot of people, but our timing and our courage or our self-awareness just doesn't happen to line up with maybe we're not ready yet, because we don't appreciate them, we don't text them, we don't invite them out, we play coy. I have girls, it's like, do you really want to be caught? I have girlfriends, I'm always side coaching with relationships. I'm like, you are the hardest person to take out. You give these guys so many goddamn excuses and reasons and make them jump through hoops and drive clear across town, when you could, make it so much easier for them. And that doesn't mean lie down and tell them, you'll drive their house to sleep with them. No, but don't have to make them, set these hoops on fire and make them dance for you. And I don't think a quality guy's
gonna do that.
No,
a quality guy. I see that we just recorded a whole episode. I'm really excited. I don't know what's coming out about like ways that ladies sabotage dating. We talked specifically about online dating, but this is true in online and offline dating, is that thing where you are in a place of like, oh, I don't know, or you're too busy, or you put work first, or whatever. And then, and then you've had his number for 6 months, and then you're like, I can't believe. And that's just a form of sabotage, which, let's talk about this. This is like, so McKenna ends up getting asked out by someone else. That's neither here nor there. But what happens is that we see some real sabotage going on, in my opinion, when we talk about Noah and Abigail. We've been talking about, bless you, Abigail. We talked about her in Matt James' season about how she was emotionally unavailable. She comes in and then she goes out. At the beginning, this first date, she said to Noah, like, I'm hard to reach. I usually have a guard up. And he says, well, let's see if I can bring it down. I mean, literally, like, we should go back and watch that clip from the first date.
We should. Let me jump in here, Marni. We should run back a clip of you singing praises. And I agreed with you about how it's so interesting how nuanced people are. Do you remember how incredibly proud you are? And I remember you saying she's so incredibly brave because she spoke about her hearing disability. She's let him know immediately when she met him, like, wow, this girl has got massive balls. And now when she has right what she wants in front of her, she's not able to open her mouth.
Well, and that's what's so interesting is people can be courageous and they can have a lot of bravery in one area of their life. Yeah. Like they're a huge risk taker in sports, or they do adventures, or they're like constantly taking risks at work or whatever it is. But when it comes to love, they're just not, right? Because it feels way too scary. And so I am proud of her, and I think she's amazing. And I think she's also got a huge guard up, and they've had a bump over the however many weeks that they're here where Noah says, like, I feel like your feelings aren't clear to me and I don't know how you feel. And she's like, oh, okay, well, I really like you. And he's like, all right, well, let's, work on that. And then here it is, like however many weeks later, and they have feelings for each other. And he tells her, which is huge because there's a moment even where Abigail is talking to someone else to Wells, her friend, about how, she's feeling this way. And this friend who's a guy says, like, you need to let him know that, make it clear that you're really into him. We saw Mari, saying like, I'm going to tell Kenny how I feel, but Kenny says it first, Marissa did that too. And so she got that coaching of like, you need to let this guy know how you feel. He makes it easy because he just says it first. She gets a free pass.
Yeah.
And she doesn't respond at all. Now, we know that she has a hearing disorder, right? And she's wearing these cochlear implants. And so maybe she couldn't hear him. I really don't know. What's also interesting and a little confusing to me about that is like, if Noah's been dating her for like 5 or 6 weeks, you would think that they're having conversations about like, he's more clear on like, what does she need to hear? Like, do you also need to be able to see my lips? Like, how well does your implant work? Like, so if you're noticing social cues and you say like, I love you, and someone just looks at you like, your lips just moved, but did you say like, is it going to rain tomorrow? Like, if you're in a relationship and you're spending 24/7 with someone, you'd be like, are you good, babe? Did you hear me? Right? Like, so that's, I don't know. I don't know that. I don't know enough about it to, and if any of you do, let us know.
Well, what you do, what I think is if that is true, if her hearing or lack of ability to hear everything crystal clear, it's so when he was talking to her and we pulled her out in the very end, Marni, she was staring straight at the ground. She wouldn't look at his face, and like how can you read lips? The body contact was already, or the language is already completely dejected and moving away. So just strange. Yeah, it doesn't. I don't know. It seems convenient. Doesn't add up. You're right. You're sitting there. They're laying on top, and I think they would have had their communication issues figured out. So it seems
at least the logistics of communication, like emotional stuff, that's hard.
Sure,
but
that's what I mean. No. Yeah,
but I'm sure if you're dating someone who is hearing impaired, like over time, you figure out like how to make sure they hear you or not, right? So I don't know. Anyway, so she says it. She says nothing. She tells the producer she's falling for him. She says, I'm so excited about this event they're doing, this prom thing. I'm getting during a slow dance. I'm going to tell him how I feel. Yeah. The slow dance happens. She doesn't say. And now this guy is like, you know what? I need to be with someone who's emotionally available. He didn't say that, but that's what he needs. And so now he's like, I'm feeling for her, but she's never going to be that person for me. I think he realizes it. So he kind of does a Hail Mary, I just watched the Green Bay Packers 37 seconds
I
win the game.
It was so epic.
Aaron Rodgers, right? So Noah does it. Aaron Rodgers. He's like 37 seconds left. Can I do this? I'm going for it. You know, and he kicks the 51-yard field goal, and you know it's like it goes through the fucking, what do you call those things? Goalposts. And there's silence.
Yeah.
And you're like, wait, did I win? Did I do what? And she doesn't say anything again. And because she doesn't react or respond, Noah breaks up with her. And the one thing I do relate, I remember I was watching that. And I was remembering a moment like that in my own life where someone was saying all this stuff to me. And I literally felt like my lips were cemented shut. And I was thinking all these things and I literally couldn't speak. So I get it. I've been there. But if that's happening to you, like, you need to do something about it.
Thank you. I wanted to say, when you mentioning, so some of these people are getting so much coaching on the show because they're just they're not there yet. And I get it. A lot has to happen in a short amount of time. But yeah, so Bartender Wells is up there and he's like, hey, babe, you need to step up, or you need to acknowledge. I mean, this guy already went above and beyond what many, quality men who are young and, as a young dude are going to go out and say. But she told him what he had to do. What she did, what bugged me, baby, is that she laughed. Oh, I have said it. I mean, I need to. And she thought it was like, and I think there's a little flag there that she still thinks it's cute to be whatever. I think she views it as being shy or playful. Like, no. This is not. When it causes tears and sadness, and like, wow, I didn't like how she, instead of going, Wells, God damn it, I've had that hurts happen before, like a broken record. I do have that issue, and then talk about it, and then be honest and open and say, I'm nervous or I'm scared or whatever going on. But the way she just like I feel like she brushed it inside and said, really, no. And
like me, ha ha ha,
me, ha ha, no. But I thought boys like that. No, boys don't like that. It doesn't work. And and hopefully some of you gals who have watched the show and who have dated, we're also upset because it's a big fucking deal when a guy it's so scary. I'm not saying it's not scary for ladies as well, but it's so scary for guys. It's not in our, it's so outside of our emotional wheelhouse to throw ourselves out there and to say we love her, to love somebody, and then to not have that, come back unrequited. And then for some reason, to pull a Aaron Rodgers and try it again. I don't know anybody.
I don't know. I mean, that was ballsy. And what's crazy is what she did here is like, you're telling me you love me, but you're telling me you want to. And she didn't even ask clarifying questions.
Nothing.
That was the other thing. Like, ladies, if someone's breaking up with you or whatever,
hell yeah,
ask clarifying questions. What do you mean? What is it that you don't know? What makes you say that you think I'm not your person? She literally shut down and ran away with their tail between her legs, basically. And this is what, and made him wrong. And that's, and that is the thing I really don't want ladies to do, is that, sometimes to leave things, we need to make the other person wrong, and that's unhealthy. Right. And so unless I find out some other information, I don't think Noah did anything wrong. Like, the guy's crying. Like, I think he was like, please tell me I'm wrong.
Yeah. But at that point, he had already slayed himself out so many times, wide himself open. So yeah, he did. That was, he could he if we wrote the script, should he have said, absolutely, could he have said, hey, well, I'm breaking up because I told you I loved you twice and you didn't say anything.
Yeah, and then he could have paused, right?
Yeah.
But what happened was he said it again and she didn't interrupt or respond. And then he just kept going. And I think that's just like, wow, maybe, I guess she doesn't. This is the information I need. And so
she's gonna either my hairstylist friend said, his grandma used to say, he said, honey, either you're gonna learn or you're gonna learn. Meaning,
exactly.
At some point in time, she's not gonna be, adorable 25 and where, these awesome quality men. It's not gonna be cute anymore. And and she's gonna learn that I do need to come up and be just as awesomely brave as she was, talking about her speech impairment with a cochlear implant with Matt. she'll hopefully get to the point.
Yeah,
and
I mean,
at least just be honest and say, I have an impairment with saying I love you.
Yeah, exactly. Which is more debilitating than, that.
Golly.
And so if you know Abigail, send her this episode. I mean, we did an episode a few weeks ago where we actually got to work with someone who was won the Bachelor, like 20 years ago and didn't deal with these issues. And here she came back to us in her 40s because the show's been on that long. And we were able to help her, and now she's engaged. And so, like, if you are Abigail, Abigail. But if that's you, like, I'm just telling you right now, like, deal with your shit because it's not just going to go away. And bless Noah. I think Noah should have been the Bachelor.
We hated Noah.
I did hate Noah.
We all did. And we were like, we worshipped Abigail. And then we hated Golly.
I know. Well, we're dating them. We're getting to know them.
That's true.
Okay, last thing I want to talk about. Oh my God, we could just go forever. So the last thing I want to talk about is like when you're looking at this whole idea of like making a plan and long distance dating and when you have a challenge. And I think in the pandemic, the data shows people are more interested or more open to dating people who live further away, which is great. That's awesome. More opportunities. But what I want to show in this example is that what you just said, either you're going to learn or you're going to learn. So Joe and Serena. So Joe was on the show a few years ago. He meets a girl named Kendall. They're together for 1.5 years or 2 years. They break up because she doesn't want to move to Chicago. Now, our dear friend Joe, who I love, is dating someone else. And they're talking about the future plans. And unless they didn't show it, their plan is to talk about it and make a plan. She lives in Canada. Now it's not just like another city, it's another country. Yeah. And I just want to be like, Joe, ask this girl, would you be open to ever living in Chicago? Because I know for sure now, after what I went through with my last relationship, I want to live in fucking Chicago.
Yeah.
I hope they had that conversation. It was just too boring to show us. But they're like, it reminded me of like Katie and the dad. What was that guy's name?
The dad. Which one?
The guy, and he was like, all we need is love, and we can get through anything.
Oh, Michael.
Okay, it's like they're basically like, yeah, because if we both really care about each other and we're both really into it, then we'll make a plan, and that'll be our plan. And I'm like, no, people, be specific when you're making plans. What does it look like? Like, how do you see this working? Do you see me coming to Chicago for a few months? Can you I don't even know what their freaking jobs are. Maybe they're just influencers. Although I heard today that the new word for influencer is a creator.
The creator.
The influencers have decided to be called creators. But anyway, we're both creators or influencers, whatever the fuck they are. We can live anywhere. Or, like maybe we'll just date long distance for a few months. I would have really liked to have seen that. One thing that I will point out is back a couple years ago, or maybe it was the last time they had Paradise, when Deanie Babies and Caitlyn decided to make a go of it, even though I wasn't a fan, he was like, are you sure you want to live in a van?
Yeah.
And she was like, I do. And he's like, are you sure you want to like do van life? And she was like, I do. And they did. And they did it for a while. And so I give Deanie Babies credit, right? Like, this is what I want. This is my priority. I love you, but are you going to do this with me? And they did show that. And I just wish, I really hope that off camera, there's some film on the floor of Joe and Serena really discussing the reality of long distance and living in two different countries. Because people deal with that shit.
For sure. And what's nuts is that, again, back to the human condition, how this dude literally was crushed, not literally, figuratively crushed when Kendall wouldn't move back to, that's all he cared about, right?
Yep.
And they took the time to let us know about that and why they broke up, and she came back there. So it does seem illogical that, hey, dude, he finally learned from the one thing that is his one non-negotiable, that he would have the adult brain to ask that and to get clear on that, and to clarify, hey, are you will you come with me? Is this what you want? But it's so weird yeah, that he just skirted right around it and fast forwarded. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah. So having a plan to have a plan isn't a fucking plan. So make a plan.
Right.
A real plan. Okay. Last thing. By the way, I think that all this talking is making my numbness go away. So the last note that I have here, which I think is really amazing, is if you are dating someone and you catch them in a lie, whether it's a big fatty or a white lie or whatever it is. And I wanted to end on this because I think there is no answer because it's all in context. But one thing that I want to say is clear, but I'm not sure is, like, if they're not your person, I don't think you need to really confront them because you just know they're not your person. But if it's someone that you're in a relationship with, that you care about, it's a friend, I think it's okay to check in and say, like, this happened and this really hurt me. In this particular case, Chelsea decides not to call out the guy who's told a lie and said, she asked me out when in fact he asked her out. And I just sort of guessed, like, she didn't give a shit anymore. Like, she wasn't ever going to go out with that guy again. Like, she doesn't need to be right. She doesn't need to get into it. She trusts the new guy, Aaron, even though he ends up with someone else. Which is fine too, because they weren't committed. But I just think, like, there is a right time to confront someone, and there's a time to just be like, you know what, this isn't gonna work.
Do you let them know? Like, let's say it's date 1 or date 2, and for a fact, and the guy wasn't telling the truth. Is this an automatic, or do you ever come back for clarity and say, or do you? Because it sounds like you're encouraging a little bit of ghosting. Is that?
Well, I mean, like, look, I know you're in a relationship that ended and you found out there was lying, and there's a decision of, like, you know what, it's over. Like, I don't need to win. Like,
yeah. Oh, that's true. And I didn't say it. Yeah, that's true.
And you didn't say anything, and it was over, and you could have, like, made it a whole big thing because you were right. And that's what I felt about this is, like, she caught this guy. I think she was already sort of not interested or maybe confused. I don't know. But I think that just the fact that there was drama turned her off. And then she had a conversation with the guy that she did like, and she was like, wow, yeah, I'm not interested. And so, I don't know. I don't think she made a huge mistake by not confronting, that guy, because what turns out is that guy lied again. He lied about something else. And then he was just asked to leave the show. And so, and so she had all the data that she needed about him. Now, if it's someone that you're still with, it's a relationship, there's a lie, it's something that you probably want to deal with, right? For sure.
Here's let's do a hybrid question. Okay. What would a person on Love on the Spectrum say about this question? Do you point out that it was, if it's not your person and you just started dating them? Because what's fascinating to me is how incredibly truthful they are and brave at sharing the truth and not worried. And they don't seem to be worried about getting in long arguments or anything like that and some nasty entanglements.
Well, I think what you could say is, like, hey, it's clear to me we're not a match, which is kind of what those autistic people do, right? They just say, they don't go into it. They just say, and they always say, I hope we can be friends, and blah, blah, blah. So I think that you can tell someone, hey, I just think we're not a match. I don't think you need to necessarily ghost them. But if you are in a relationship or you're interested or you've gone on 3 or 4 dates and there's like, hey, you said that on your profile you were 40, but I just saw your driver's license and you're 42. What's up with that?
Oh, okay.
And he could say, well, honestly, yeah, you're right. Like, I was dating and I wanted to put them algorithms so I would meet women more my age.
I did that. You calling me out?
No, you did that?
I totally did that.
And what happened? Oh my God.
I got called out and I didn't give a shit. But I was like, yeah, no, because the algorithm because I know that that I wouldn't make the cutoff line for what's acceptable from a lot of girls, and I knew that it wouldn't be an issue once they met me. I assumed it. Well, then I assumed it because everyone's always telling me how immature I am and how young I look and seem and all that sort of stuff. So now, totally, yeah. And what about? And I don't do this. But what about all the guys out there who they're 6 foot and they're all 5? Maybe they're 5'10".
I think that's okay. Like I think that you want to say, hey, look, I get it. Like it's online dating, whatever. But I just want to clarify. Like I thought that your thing said you were 6 foot. Like what's your why? Yeah. And we just did a training for our clients on lying about your age online. And you have to be a client to hear. But one thing that came up is that like you were saying, it is a math problem online, right? And so if you're gonna do it, just like own it and be like, just so you know, totally. Because you're not the only one doing it, and then you have to just be like, okay, I assume that means integrity is a value of yours. You're just you want to hear their why for lying, and I think that's a good question to ask. Well, next week we have another 180-minute episode. Woo! It's a finale. So we'll be talking about that. And then I believe we have a Bachelorette on tap. So we'll be The Learning Lives On.
What happens at the end? Refresh our memories, and mine especially. What like next week? Is everybody going to? What's the name? The ring dude fly in there and drop everybody off expensive rings because it seems like the budget's too cheap for that.
No, what happens is they do this thing where like they say like spoiler alert. They basically do a thing where they're like, hey, we're going to the next level of like fantasy suites, and that means you want to get engaged. So everybody go take 30 minutes and decide if you're serious. And then typically like half of them or more drop away, and there's usually like 2 or 3 left. And then those people do fantasy suites, and then it's the engagement or not. They break up, and then there's like 1 engagement maybe or 2. So that's what's going to happen, people. And that's why Wells is like, all right, start having these conversations now.
Yeah. So wait, hold on. So what is going to the fantasy suite? Is the fantasy suite the boom boom boom, or is that?
It's like, well, yeah, it's nicer. They get to go to like a hotel.
Okay.
And like have a night in the fantasy suite without the cameras.
Such a strange show.
Such a strange show.
Like an alien. You're like, this is the weirdest.
Weirdest show ever. The weirdest show ever.
For ABC, for kids. Yeah.
But it is a great lab. Like, that's what's amazing is like all these topics we talked about on this episode, shit you guys are all dealing with in real life. So we love it. We love you. Whatever you do this week, don't drool and do it with some damn dignity. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Hey, thanks for tuning into today's show. So if being in an intimate relationship in which you feel 100% seen, heard, and accepted by a high caliber man is a priority for you right now, and you're interested in seeing if you're a fit for working with me and my team at Dating with Dignity, here's what I want you to do. Just head over to DWD VIP, that's D as in dating, W, D as in dating, VIP.com, and book a call to speak with my team. We'll get on the phone with you for about 60 minutes, and you'll get crystal clear on what's stopping you from finding true love right now. We'll also take a look at what you want to create, what you want your whole life to look like when you're able to finally be fully expressed as a woman in a healthy relationship with an incredible guy. And if we can help you get from where you are right now to where you want to be, we will show you the fastest path possible that makes sense for you to do that. We help smart, successful women all over the world solve this one missing piece in their life so they can finally have it all. So to see if we can help you do the same thing, head over to DWDVIP.com. I'm Marni Battista, and let's talk soon.